Every November, millions of people eat too much, say thank you, and fall asleep watching football. But few know that this cozy tradition began with a storm, a ship full of hopeful strangers, and a table built out of survival. The first Thanksgiving wasn't about perfection, it was about people trying, sharing, and finding warmth in a cold world. The funny thing? They had no idea they were starting a holiday that would one day include parade balloons the size of houses. Our story begins more than 400 years ago, in 1620, when a ship called the Mayflower sailed across the Atlantic Ocean. It was no luxury cruise. Imagine a wooden boat smaller than a modern coffee shop, filled with 102 people, all bumping into each other every time a wave hit. There were families, children, and people searching for freedom and a fresh start. There were also seasick passengers who regretted every decision that had brought them there. The journey lasted 66 days of storms, cold, wind, and food that could double as building material. When they finally saw land, they cheered. "Land!" someone shouted, probably while holding onto a barrel for balance. They believed they had reached the warm, sunny coast of Virginia. Instead, they found themselves in Massachusetts, cold, rocky, and definitely not the vacation destination they imagined. November air bit their faces, the trees looked like they were shivering too. Still, they decided to stay. They stepped onto the freezing sand and named the place Plymouth, because naming things after home is comforting when you're very far from it. The first winter was cruel, food was scarce, shelter was weak, many became sick. The ocean didn't care about their courage, it sent wind and waves as if testing their will. But even when hope flickered low, they didn't give up. They helped one another, shared what little they had, and dreamed of spring. It was a season of learning, loss, and quiet strength. If Thanksgiving had existed then, they would have been thankful just to see the sun rise. Then, finally, spring arrived like a gentle sigh from the earth. The snow melted, rivers ran free, and green began to return. With spring came new faces, people who already knew this land well. The Wampanoag Nation had lived here for countless generations. They understood the seasons, the soil, the animals, and the rhythm of life. Among them was a man named Tisquantum, often called Squanto, whose story was already an adventure of its own. He spoke English, a rare and valuable skill, and became a bridge between the newcomers and the Wampanoag people. He had every reason not to help them, but he did. Maybe he saw their struggle, maybe he saw an opportunity for peace. Whatever his reasons, his kindness shaped history. Squanto taught the newcomers how to plant corn using fish as fertilizer, how to find food in the forest and rivers, and how to survive in a land that was beautiful but unforgiving. His lessons were simple but life-saving. He showed them that survival isn't just about skill, it's about listening. The settlers learned, worked, and planted. They watched green shoots rise from the earth, like hope taking a deep breath. They learned that gratitude often begins with a seed. By the time autumn returned, the harvest was ready. Corn stood tall. Squash and beans filled baskets. The air was crisp, but it didn't feel cruel anymore. It smelled like wood, smoke, and progress. After months of work, they finally had enough food to face another winter. Relief spread through the small community like warmth through a blanket. They decided to celebrate not out of luxury, but out of survival. When you've seen the edge of despair, even a full plate feels like a miracle. They invited their neighbors, the Wampanoag, to join them. Many came dozens more than expected. But instead of panic, there was cooperation. The guests brought venison, fish, and other foods. The settlers cooked what they had. There was no written menu, no pie charts, and certainly no marshmallows on sweet potatoes. Just food, laughter, and curiosity. For 3 days, they shared stories, music, and meals. It wasn't a polished event, it was human. Two worlds met at a table neither had planned but both needed. Imagine the scene in your animation. Golden leaves swirling in the wind, tables made of rough wood, smoke curling into the sky, and voices mixing like songs in two languages. You could show hands passing bowls, children sneaking bites, and smiles that say more than words ever could. That's the heart of Thanksgiving, not the food itself, but the act of sharing it. Of course, history is never just one meal. Relationships between the settlers and the Wampanoag would later face tension, misunderstanding, and loss. But that first shared harvest remains a symbol of what humans can do at their best. Reach across difference and say, let's eat together. It's the oldest form of diplomacy and maybe the most delicious one. Over the years, different communities held their own days of Thanksgiving. Some gave thanks for rain, for harvests, or for peace after long struggles. There was no fixed date or national rule. Gratitude was personal, and every town had its own rhythm. The tradition spread like the scent of baking bread, quietly but surely. Then, in 1789, George Washington, the first president of the United States, decided to make it official. He announced a national day of thanks, encouraging everyone to pause and appreciate what they had. But the idea faded in and out for decades. Some states celebrated, others didn't. It was like a holiday, still deciding what outfit to wear. Enter one remarkable woman, Sarah Josepha Hale, a writer and editor with the persistence of a superhero armed with a pen. She believed Thanksgiving could unite a divided country. For decades, she wrote letters, essays, and polite reminders to presidents, suggesting they make Thanksgiving a yearly national holiday. She was like the world's most determined event planner. Her writing inspired families to celebrate at home, even before it was law. And yes, she's also the woman who wrote Mary Had a Little Lamb. The same person who gave us a nursery rhyme also helped give us a national holiday. Talk about multitasking. Finally, in 1863, in the middle of one of the hardest chapters of American history, President Abraham Lincoln agreed. He declared a national Thanksgiving Day to be held each year in November. He hoped it would remind people to find unity, gratitude, and peace even in difficult times. And it worked. Slowly, Thanksgiving became a steady, warm light on the calendar, a promise that no matter how chaotic the world gets, there's always one day to stop, share, and say thanks. As the years rolled on, Thanksgiving began to grow bigger, louder, and somehow stuffier. What began as a humble harvest meal turned into a national event that mixed gratitude with gravy, history with humor, and a little chaos with cranberry sauce. By the late 1800s, Americans were celebrating Thanksgiving in ways the Pilgrims could never have imagined. They had ovens, sugar, actual recipes that didn't begin with step 1, don't freeze to death. Families started developing their own traditions. Some decorated their tables with colorful leaves and candles. Others tried to cook a turkey the size of a small car, even if the oven protested. Children were asked to say what they're thankful for, which sometimes led to deep thoughts. I'm thankful for my family, and sometimes to chaos. I'm thankful for mashed potatoes and also my turtle. Each family celebration became a mix of sincerity and silliness, which, let's be honest, is exactly how humans express love. By the early 1900s, the holiday had become a national favorite. It was the one day when everyone could eat too much and still call it tradition. But Thanksgiving was about to get even bigger, literally. In 1924, a department store in New York called Macy's had an idea. What if we celebrate Thanksgiving with a giant parade? That idea, as it turned out, was about as small as a giant balloon. The first Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade featured live animals from the zoo, people in costumes, and music that bounced off the city buildings. Over time, it grew into a spectacular event full of marching bands, dancers, and massive balloons, shaped like cartoon characters. Imagine the Pilgrims seeing that. We crossed the ocean for freedom, and now there's a 40-foot balloon of a smiling turkey floating over the streets. The parade became a symbol of joy, marking the start of the holiday season. It said, winter is coming, but first, let's party. Meanwhile, another Thanksgiving tradition was forming on the nation's fields. Football. The first Thanksgiving football game took place in 1876 between Yale and Princeton. It was intense, competitive, and cold. Eventually, the National Football League turned the holiday into one of its biggest days of the year. Across the country, families tuned in after dinner to watch teams clash while pretending they were too full to move. For many, Thanksgiving now had 3 main ingredients: turkey, family, and touchdowns. But not every Thanksgiving story involves parades or sports. In many homes, it's simply a day to slow down and reconnect. The kitchen becomes the heart of the house. There's the comforting clatter of pots, the smell of bread baking, and the sound of a relative saying, "Are you sure we need 3 kinds of pie?" Everyone pretends to say no, but secretly the answer is yes, of course we do. Pie is a love language. Over time, Thanksgiving also developed its own modern quirks. One of the most famous is the presidential turkey pardon. It began as a lighthearted tradition where one lucky turkey is spared from becoming dinner. The ceremony is full of jokes, smiles, and feathers. The president announces the turkey's freedom, and the bird usually retires to a peaceful farm. It's a silly but sweet reminder that kindness and humor can live even in official traditions. Somewhere, there's probably a turkey bragging, "I met the president." While Thanksgiving became a symbol of gratitude and comfort, it also became a time for reflection. For many Native American families, the fourth Thursday in November carries a more complex meaning. It's a day to remember history, honor ancestors, and acknowledge the struggles that followed those early meetings between settlers and native nations. Some communities hold a national day of mourning to share stories and preserve traditions. Including this perspective in your lesson reminds students that history is never just one story, it's many voices woven together. Understanding those voices doesn't take away from Thanksgiving. It adds depth, honesty, and respect. Even with its complicated past, Thanksgiving continues to evolve, adapting like a favorite recipe that changes slightly every generation. Immigrant families add their own flavors to the feast. Italian lasagna sits next to turkey, Filipino lumpia joins the appetizers, Mexican tamales share space with mashed potatoes, and Vietnamese spring rolls line up proudly beside cranberry sauce. The holiday table becomes a map of the world. It whispers a powerful message. Gratitude speaks every language. And of course, there's the famous question that appears in every household. Who gets to carve the turkey? It's a moment of both honor and danger. Someone stands with the carving knife, surrounded by hungry eyes. Everyone has advice. Cut this way. No, thinner slices. Just give me the wing. It's part ceremony, part comedy show. And even if the turkey doesn't come out perfectly, nobody really cares. Because the real secret of Thanksgiving is this: the food matters less than the feeling around it. After dinner comes the legendary leftovers. This is when creativity truly shines. Sandwiches made from turkey, stuffing, and cranberry sauce appear like edible art projects. Families argue over whether to heat things up or eat them cold. Some turn leftovers into soups, others into new feasts. It's like the holiday refuses to end. Even the fridge hums with pride. Look at all this gratitude I'm keeping fresh. Beyond the food and fun, Thanksgiving teaches something universal. Gratitude is a superpower that anyone can practice. You don't need a fancy table or a turkey to feel thankful. You can be grateful for a friend who listens, for a sunny morning, or for the fact that someone invented pie. Scientists say that thankfulness can even make people healthier and happier. Maybe that's why the word thank sounds a bit like a small smile. When you say it, it changes your face. In schools around the world, teachers use Thanksgiving to teach both English and empathy. Students learn new words like harvest, gratitude, feast, and celebration. They practice polite phrases such as, "Could you please pass the salt?" and "That looks delicious." These simple sentences build connection and kindness. Some classrooms create paper turkeys or gratitude trees where students write what they're thankful for on colorful leaves. The answers are often funny and sweet. I'm thankful for pizza. I'm thankful for my dog. I'm thankful for not having homework today. In their own way, these small voices carry the same spirit as that first feast in 1621. And if you ever wonder why Thanksgiving feels different from other holidays, it's because it doesn't ask for gifts, costumes, or fireworks. It asks for something simpler: attention. It asks you to look around your table, see the faces you care about, and remember that life, even when messy, is full of reasons to say thank you. That's powerful. That's human. In your animated film, this moment could be beautiful. A camera panning across a table filled with food from different cultures, laughter echoing, kids giggling, and someone quietly whispering, "Thank you." Then the scene could fade to the night sky, stars shining, a gentle voice saying, "Gratitude connects us all." Of course, Thanksgiving doesn't end when the plates are cleared. The next day, known as Black Friday, brings a new kind of excitement, a shopping frenzy that feels like the holiday's energetic cousin. Stores open early, people hunt for discounts, and some wonder if their ancestors would approve. Probably not, but in a funny way, it shows that Thanksgiving's joy still spills into the days that follow. The gratitude might turn into shopping lists, but the spark of celebration remains. As we look back, it's amazing to think that one small meal shared between two different peoples became a tradition that has lasted centuries. It began with hunger and hope, grew through storytelling and persistence, and now exists as a yearly reminder that even in hard times, humans can choose kindness. It's messy, funny, and touching, just like life itself. As years passed, Thanksgiving began to feel less like just a holiday and more like a national ritual, a day when the entire country takes a deep breath at the same time. People celebrate it differently, but the spirit is the same. Gather, eat, laugh, and remember to be thankful, even if the mashed potatoes turn out lumpy. In small towns, parades still march proudly down main streets, complete with local marching bands, kids dressed as pilgrims, and someone in a turkey costume trying not to trip. In big cities, the famous Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade fills the sky with giant balloons that float between skyscrapers like cheerful clouds. Music echoes, crowds cheer, and the smell of roasted chestnuts and coffee travels through the air. For many families, the parade is the official signal that the holiday season has truly begun. It's hard to feel grumpy when a 40-foot cartoon character is smiling down at you. Meanwhile, in countless kitchens, another kind of show is happening. It's called Thanksgiving Cooking Chaos, starring every family member who thinks they know the best way to make gravy. There's always someone carefully measuring ingredients, someone else improvising like a jazz musician, and a child who wants to help by eating all the olives. The kitchen becomes a noisy orchestra, pots clanging, timers ringing, laughter bubbling. Even if things go wrong, that's part of the fun. Burnt rolls, comedy. Missing spoon, drama. Turkey slightly undercooked, suspense. Every Thanksgiving meal is its own story, full of tiny adventures and delicious accidents. And then there's the table, the heart of it all. Plates fill, glasses clink, and someone says, "Let's go around and share what we're thankful for." It's a moment of honesty. People mention family, friends, health, and sometimes very specific things, like the fact that the Wi-Fi worked all year. Gratitude doesn't need to be grand to be real. Even small thanks can shine like candlelight. For children, Thanksgiving is a chance to learn that gratitude isn't about saying thank you once, it's about noticing good things all around. Teachers often ask students to make lists of what they appreciate. The answers are funny, touching, and perfectly human. I'm thankful for my grandma's hugs. I'm thankful for my video games. I'm thankful for food that isn't broccoli. Each answer is true in its own way. Gratitude, after all, is personal. As the day winds down, a quiet calm replaces the noise. Plates are empty. Bellies are full. Someone inevitably falls asleep on the couch with the TV still playing. The lights dim, and the house hums softly, content. Outside, cold air carries the smell of chimney smoke. The world feels slower, gentler. Thanksgiving has done its job. But what makes this holiday truly special is how it stretches beyond food and tradition. It's a mirror that reflects the best parts of being human, sharing, helping, forgiving, and remembering that no one truly thrives alone. The story began with survival, but it grew into connection. Over 400 years later, the heart of Thanksgiving still beats with the same rhythm: gratitude. And yes, the holiday has grown in funny directions. There's the shopping marathon of Black Friday, which turns the quiet reflection of Thursday into a day of competitive bargain hunting. There's the chaotic family debate over whether sweet potatoes need marshmallows. No one really wins. There's the friendly football rivalry that ends with someone yelling, "This year we'll finally win," while holding a slice of pie like a trophy. These modern twists might make the original settlers scratch their heads, but they also show that traditions are alive. They change, adapt, and sometimes wear very silly hats. Still, amid all the noise, the real magic of Thanksgiving happens in small, quiet moments. A kid learning how to mash potatoes for the first time, a grandparent sharing an old family recipe, a group of friends far from their families deciding to cook together and call it Friendsgiving, a stranger receiving a warm meal from a community kitchen. These are the invisible threads that keep the holiday human. They prove that gratitude is not a date, it's a decision. Imagine how powerful that idea is to teach students. Gratitude is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it grows. You don't need a feast to practice it. You can thank your teacher, your parents, your pet, or even yourself for doing your best today. Gratitude is free, but it makes everything richer. If you were turning this story into animation, this could be a perfect sequence. The camera moves across different homes, big, small, urban, rural. Some tables are filled with turkey and pie, others with rice, noodles, or soup. In each home, people smile, talk, or simply sit together. The voiceover says softly, "Thanksgiving isn't about what's on the table, it's about who's at it." The music rises gently as scenes of laughter, hugs, and shared meals fill the screen. The message lands. Gratitude connects everyone, no matter where they are. But Thanksgiving also reminds us to look back to remember the real history, both the joy and the pain. For Native American communities, this time of year is also a reminder of resilience. Some hold ceremonies to honor their ancestors, their heritage, and their survival. Their stories are essential to understanding the full picture. In your film, this moment could be shown with respect and simplicity, a campfire under the stars, quiet drums, voices telling stories that have been passed down for generations. The narrator could say, "Every story of Thanksgiving carries both light and shadow. To be thankful is also to remember." And then to bring the story full circle, you can return to where it began, that first meal in 1621. The scene fades from the modern world to the past, the settlers and the Wampanoags sitting together, the firelight flickering, the sound of waves nearby. They don't know that their shared meal will echo through centuries. They don't know about parades, football, or cranberry sauce. They only know the feeling of relief, of kindness, of being alive. One looks up at the stars, maybe thinking, "Tomorrow will be hard again, but tonight we are thankful." That's the spirit that has survived every change. And maybe that's the secret reason Thanksgiving endures. It's not because of turkey or traditions. It's because it reminds us of something we often forget in our busy, modern lives. Gratitude is not about having everything. It's about noticing the good in what we already have. It's the warmth in a cold season, the quiet laughter after a storm, the gentle truth that we're all better when we share. When the credits of your animation roll, you can end with one final image, a small candle flickering in a window. The narrator's voice says, 4 centuries ago, a group of people shared a meal and found hope in each other. Today, we still sit down, still give thanks, still believe that gratitude can light even the darkest night. The candle glows brighter, fade to black, music softens. The words appear on screen. Thanksgiving, born from survival, grown by sharing, and kept alive by gratitude. Because in the end, that's the real story, not of pilgrims and pies, but of people who learned that saying thank you is one of the strongest things the human heart can do.